Good evening. Good evening. We want to welcome you back to the UnRuffled Ladies. We are so excited to be back with you again this afternoon. We thank God for this day. We always look forward to being with you. You always see my Facebook say, come on, let's chat. So we want you to just come on in. Let us know that you're on with us. Of course, we always want to recognize the word UnRuffled Ladies mean. It means to be confidence, balance, and at ease. I am the co-host of the UnRuffled Ladies, of course, along with my uh, uh, host, Delicia Harris, and also Rosalind Hall. So we are excited again. We all know that this is the Domestic Violence Month and also Cancer Awareness Month. And so today we're going to be talking about domestic violence and trauma. We are so happy, glad to have my counselor. I would like to say that Marcelina. I'm probably messing up your name real bad, but I'm sure that you will straighten that out whenever you come. But we are just excited to have her with us. That is going to share with us today on the behalf of domestic violence. And I just want you to know it's real. It's definitely real. It's real. It's real. You know, I've been thinking about it kind of all day long, to thinking of how do one get entangled with someone that is in that frame mind. But you know, you can that can so easily happen without even you knowing that you're getting entangled with something. So today we want you to feel free to ask questions. We want you to feel free to uh, give us your input. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channels as well as we go into the topic on today, talking about uh, domestic violence and trauma. Yeah, domestic violence and trauma. So we do, as I said earlier, that we have a guest. Uh, Marcelina Washington is with us today. But before I bring her on, we just want to kind of give you a little certificate of how bad this domestic violence is. And Ron's going to do that for us before we bring her on, because I want her to just come on and just to kind of tell us a little. I want her to tell us, who is she? Talk about her first. You know, I just believe, and then after Ron's is finished, I do want to ask three questions. Uh, uh, just come on, Ron.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to briefly give us a few statistics, and then I'll let Marcelina's going to chime in and fill us in all about her and how she's impacting, people who are experiencing this. So an average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States. More than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year. Also, nearly 3 in 10 women, that's 29%, and 1 in 10 men in the U.S. have and are stalking by a partner and reported it having a related impact on their functioning. Just under 15% of women and 4% of men in the U.S. have been injured as a result of intimate partner involvement, intimate partner violence that included rape, physical violence, and or stalking by that partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the U.S. have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year.
Wow.
That's every year. Just one more here. Over 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the U.S. have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, who are really, really going through this. And almost half of all women and men in the U.S. have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 48 to 4% and 48 0.8%. Women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence.
Wow.
This dates back quite a bit, but from 1994 to 2010, I know that's dated back, but this will give you an idea. Approximately 4 in 5 victims of intimate partner violence were females. 4 in
Wow.
5. Most female victims of intimate partner violence were previously victimized by the same offender at rates of 70% for women ages 18 to 24 and 76% for ages 25 to 34 and 81% for ages 35 to 49.
Wow. Wow.
So that's those are some, if you
Wow.
think about it, some really impactful statistics to know that there are people out there that are really experiencing this on that level.
Yes, yes. So it really
Mm-hmm.
let us know that it is real. As a matter of fact, somebody is experiencing it right now, even as we speak. So once again, I do want to welcome Marcelina. Thank you so much for accepting uh, our invitation. But I just want to start off by saying, asking you, who are you? You know, I just believe that in order for us to minister something to someone else, we have to experience it in some kind of fashion or form ourselves, you know. And so there has been something I know that drove you to become a counselor, to become a trauma. Yeah, I think it's one of your major things that you major in is trauma. So just talk to us.
Okay. So my name is Marcelina Washington. I'm a licensed professional counselor, licensed chemical dependency counselor. I'm a national counseling, part of the National Counseling Society. And also I work with disaster mental health counseling. I specialize in trauma. But that's just my accolades. It means nothing without the hand of God. And I will tell you, I am also a survivor as a child of domestic violence. So growing up in a household where my father, who passed away before I was 5 years old, no one ever to this day told me my dad was a violent drunk. No one ever told me that my dad was abusive. I saw firsthand of my dad being driven by alcohol or inebriated and in the tub, and he busting through the door with my mom's hand and his hand on her neck, and he hit her head through the window, the glass window in our bathroom, and he was fighting. No one ever told me that. So I grew up in a household where I learned how to hold my breath because I didn't know what to anticipate, which happens with we'll talk a little bit more about that. Happens with children who grow up and adults as well, victims of different violence. We learn to hold our breath, and it's just a trauma response. You know, we're
Mhm.
responding to something that has happened, and but we do it a lot in our lives with different things. The other thing is that I had a really good friend of mine, coworker. I'll just say her first name, Antoinette, who passed away several years ago at the hands of her daughter's father. So she was an individual.
Uh-oh, what happened?
We lost her volume there for a minute.
We can't hear you.
Can everybody still hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Forgive us,
Well, we don't
y'all.
know what's going on right now, but that's part of technology. That's what happened. So
Yep.
y'all bear with us. Make sure that you stay tuned in. I'm sure there's uh, something may be going on with her phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, can you text up Valicia? Let her know that we can't hear her.
Yep. They're letting us know online she's frozen. We know, guys. We
Yeah,
know she's logged off now. She's probably gonna log back in.
yeah,
Mhm. So
yeah.
there's nothing like having someone in your midst that knows what you're going through.
Right, right,
That knows what you're going through.
right, right. And one of the things that we have to understand that violence comes in many different forms. You know,
Yes.
violence, it comes in many different forms. It's not just someone beating on you. It's, it's a physical thing. It's a mentally thing. It's a finance things. It comes in different forms. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
are you able to get in touch with her, Pastor B? See if
I
she.
just I just sent her a text to let her know that we couldn't
Yeah,
hear her.
but this is what this platform is all about. Is bringing out truth. And sharing our truth and some of the things that we have experienced in life. And just like she was saying, I, it made her even go through like holding a breath. Which I wanted to ask a question on that. Why hold your breath? You know, but I can kind of visualize that because that you're so fearful of what's going on. But can you imagine? You're almost afraid to breathe. Here she go.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So sorry about that, guys. I'm just the talking, but just wanted to say this really quick. So my friend died at the hands of her child's father at the age of 26 years old. Her daughter was a few months old. Like their daughter was a few months old, and not only was it a homicide where he met her outside of her parents' home and shot her in the back of the head, he also completed suicide himself. So I know what it's like or have experienced it personally, but also work with couples. As I stated before, I work with Living Stones Counseling Center, which is my counseling, my private practice. I'm a mom of two amazing kings, and I'm just a daughter and servant of God. Like, however I can serve and help, that's where I'm at. So that's a little about myself.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Question that I have to ask, and I was saying this while you was off. You said that it caused you to hold your breath.
Hmm.
What is that? Because that can be trauma all by itself. You know.
Yeah, so it was very traumatic for me. The holding my breath was a part of my traumatic response. So when I would hear my dad, I could tell when he was drunk coming up the stairs to our home because he would step on the beer cans that were collected in a trash bag. Now I knew all this before the age of 5, so this is how my little brain is working. So if I heard him step on them, I knew he was drunk. If he didn't step on them, then he was fine. He was sober coming into the house. So as soon as I heard it, I didn't realize this, but as a trauma person that teaches and works with individuals with trauma, one of the things we begin to do is hold our breath. So you hold it in anticipation for what's getting ready to come next. You also start preparing, your mind and heart and all this other stuff for how to be able to get yourself to safety. You're always looking for that. So you learn to do things as an adult, like read the room. So you enter a room and it doesn't feel right for you. So you stay quiet and you steady scanning the room trying to figure out what's off. Those are
Wow,
trauma responses that you kind of learn as someone that grew up in that. Hmm.
wow, wow, wow. Well, let's talk about Marcelina. What is the different types of domestic violence and trauma? We know, as I said coming on, we know that there's different types of domestic violence. Just kind of talk about and tell us the different types that you have dealt with or you are familiar with.
Okay, sure. There's a lot of when you think of, I think I should start off with the definition of my definition of that makes sense. I want to make sure that we have clarity. So for me, domestic violence is committed by someone in the victim's domestic circle. So somebody that you are closely related to, that you have close connections with. That's what makes it domestic. And so we talk about partners, ex-partners, immediate family members, other relatives, and family friends. So when I'm talking domestic violence, that's what I'm including into that realm. And violence occurs when one person feels entitled or empowered or control over another person. Um, and so when you think about this, it can look like many different things. Sometimes people are in types of domestic violence they don't even realize that they're in, to include financial, right? One of the things that can be is an intimate partner may withhold money, giving you money for different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another one is lack of physical abuse. So those are the ones that we're mostly familiar with, like hitting, biting, scratching, strangling, causing fear. There's also emotional abuse when you think about it, which is when the abuser kind of erodes or work away at the self-esteem and independence.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual abuse. So whether you're married or not, or you are a child, we have to also consider children are a part of this. Elderly adults can be in a place where they're not having consensual sex or they're not able to commit. People who have mental health disorders could be in a place where they're in domestic violence. And of course, psychological abuse, just threatening harm, and making the victim feel very afraid, threatening that they're going to hurt their family or somehow come up to their job, constantly calling your job. Those things are forms of domestic violence when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. So in other
Hmm.
words, you're saying that if somebody in your life that constantly calling you all the time, that could be domestic violence. That could be a part.
Yes. Yes,
Although
it depends.
they're physically hitting you, but they just, yeah, they're trying to keep up with you all
Yeah.
the time.
It's the harassment aspect of the calling.
Mhm.
So if they're calling your job and they know, or you've told them, "Hey, I can't receive calls at my job," but they're calling with a malice intent. So the intent and the motive behind the calling is the thing that makes it domestic. So yes, because it's wearing away at your psychological. You're not able to produce your job if you're constantly answering the phone or worried about losing your job, which is
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
also a part of like a economic abuse, right?
Wow.
Trying to keep and maintain control over that person's ability to be able to gain wealth so they can get out of the situation if needed.
Wow. Yeah. That
Mhm.
makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense. So, do you think that one that maybe like you say you grew up with your parents? Do you think
Mhm.
as becoming an adult, you become attracted to those type of peoples that abusive peoples? I might not be asking that question right, but
Sure.
sometimes you can attract things. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like a drug
Mhm.
addict always attract them. They always know another drug addict. You know.
Mhm.
Do you think
I,
when you're a child and you grow up with that and you're around that, those are the type of people that you attract in a relationship?
I Uh-huh. I don't think it has anything to do with the type of people I attract. Especially when I quite young, figured out that's not something I wanted. Like I didn't want that in my relationship. A lot of times people will think, and sometimes it happens, especially in our culture. I'm sorry, were you asking a question?
Yeah, I was saying I was just thinking of overall. It's
Yes,
people.
yes. Yeah. So in over okay, so when we're thinking about general population, a lot of it is transgenerational. When I say transgenerational, what I mean is it occurred in multiple generations. You can see the same patterns.
Mm.
I met several clients who, when I talk to them, they're in a domestic violence, because I work with couples, as I stated before, domestic violence realm. But when I talk to them long enough, their mom was domestically abused by their father, and then if I talk to the mom long enough or talk to them long enough about it, then you find out the grandmother was a victim of domestic violence. So that is more common than what I was telling you independent thing.
Mhm.
Because I had made up in my mind that I did not. So the first time it felt like you wanted to push me, or I thought that I was in danger. Because remember, I was telling you about the holding of the breath as I'm constantly trying to be self aware of what is there.
Yeah.
um so as far as the physical violence, but there's other types of violence like we talked about. Sexual violence is one of them. I experienced that, being raped at an early age. I think it's like 19 years old, in my own home, and not being able to say anything about it because of past traumas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
what I thought someone may believe, those kind of different things.
Wow.
Mm.
Right. So
Mhm.
that's a form of domestic violence as well, as we talked about, is the unconsensual sex.
Yeah.
Hmm. Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know the other ladies probably have questions. I'm just talking, so
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Do,
So
look,
we were you were just talking about, how does it affect one who had childhood trauma and underlearned behavior as a child growing up. So how does
Mhm.
unresolved anger and emotional regulation issues has to do with one's behavior? And I think this is a really, really important question, simply because you have a lot of adults like yourself, even myself,
Mhm.
who have experienced domestic violence, and we are exemplifying a behavior of a victim of it, and we don't even know it. We're not even aware.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is, how does unresolved anger and emotional regulation issues, how does, how issues has to do with one's behavior? How
Okay, so
does
I
it?
think you're asking. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so what I think you're asking me is how does this unresolved behavior from me being someone who witnessed it or for someone who has been a victim of domestic violence, what does that look like is what you're asking me? Is that right? I
Yeah,
want to make sure I'm
and
answering the question correctly.
sure,
Okay.
and some of the, I want to say, some of the aftermath. How does
Okay.
one deal with that? You know,
Okay.
how
So
do
let's
you identify it?
Okay. So let's talk about the symptoms and what it looks like, and then we can kind of wrap it up into what it how to kind of work with it. So
Got
physically, I would look at things like bruised eyes, bruises on arms, or in places that this person wouldn't normally have bruises or things of that sort. Sometimes shortness of breath, which is what I was telling you about, breathing or feeling hypervigilant, which is when someone feels startled or the response that someone would feel if they were startled or scared or things of that sort. Muscle tension. So a lot of times individuals may have shoulders that are raised and they're feeling. So these are some of the physiological or signs of someone that has been through it, right? The mental
Mhm.
aspect of it produces things like post traumatic stress disorder, where the person, even if they're out of the violent place with their attacker, they begin to feel things like flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, racing thoughts. So it's uncontrolled thoughts. Those are some of the things. Prolonged depression or sadness, and low self-esteem, and always questioning their sense of self. Other things would be you look for is like suicidal thoughts or attempts, and alcohol use. The other thing I want to bring up is how it looks emotionally or spiritually, effects of domestic violence. And some of those include hopelessness, feeling unworthy, uh, inability to be able to trust and questioning and doubting their faith, and also feeling unmotivated. These are some things that occur and how it looks on an individual uh,
Okay.
that may have experienced domestic violence. So those are some of the things to look for and also are showing, should be showing.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's good. That's good to know,
yeah. That's
because
Yeah.
you have people that are silent about their abuse,
yeah.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, and that's
Yes.
good to know.
I can
Yeah.
identify with some of those symptoms. Just looking back
Hmm.
from what I've experienced. I didn't have
Hmm.
physical abuse, but it was more um, emotional, to a certain degree,
Hmm.
psychological. Um, and so I do remember there was a time where I did, not realizing it, I did lose faith
Mm-hmm.
for a time. I did, it did affect my faith because I found myself in fear, um,
Hmm.
excessive fear. to the point that,
Mhm.
whatever I did, it was just it was like reaction out of fear,
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
opposed to um um just being calm and having wisdom. I just felt like I just went into like a
Mhm.
survival mode almost, you
Mhm.
know, to try to do what I need to
Mhm.
do to make sure that I was safe and my children were too.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yes. So I want to define trauma as I understand it to be as someone that provides as a trauma care provider. So for me, trauma is not what happened. It is how my brain and my body responds to what has happened. For example, many of us have, I don't know about you guys, but I've been in car accidents, right? Where I'm laying in the bed and I'm sound asleep, and all of a sudden my body jerks as if I'm still in that accident and I'm
Mm.
nowhere near a car or any of those things. That is called muscle memory. So my muscles remember that there was a traumatic event that happens, and that happens in our body still today. So I think that's answering the second part of the question. The other thing is that our minds begin to um, find ways to be able to adapt to what has happened to us or what we've experienced. So we begin to do things like you said, have partners that are start displaying early signs of domestic violence. Like one of the biggest things is starting to isolate you from your family and your friends. That's one of the things that an abuser begins to do because it allows them to maintain and have the control that they want and need. You know, so those things begin to start happening, and may or may not become more aware of them until you're so far in, it's too late.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
So, do you
Mhm.
feel that the abuser is a abuser because that he has been abused? That's
A lot of yeah, I got exactly what you're saying. And I think a lot of the times, what has been statistically shown is that they've been in households where abuse is a form of a response themselves. So, emotional deregulation. So, someone that's not able to regulate their own emotions may want to control an environment, and instead of them being able to articulate or verbalize what it is that they're wanting to say, they use it as a form of control because if I can control it, then I know what to expect from it. Does it make
right.
sense? So a lot of people who grew up in domestic violence are predators, or those who have committed domestic violence are usually those who have been in a household where that is what is taught, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that they've been exposed to or exposed to.
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
it doesn't naturally, and it doesn't always have to be your family of origin. It's just whoever your primary caretaker may have been.
Yeah. 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 Do we have any questions,
Mhm.
Roswell or Pastor B? Do we
But
have?
just to
Is anybody
piggyback
else?
off of what she said, once you exposed to it, then it things becomes normalized. It's like to some people that's their
Mhm.
normal. That's how they
Mhm.
function,
Yeah.
and they don't know anything else, because that's how they do.
Yeah. 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 I was asking, is anybody on the line have questions or have any comments that we want to share? And in the meantime, while she's looking that up to see if anybody online that have something they want to share or a question that they want to ask, I want to
Mhm.
talk about sexual trauma. What is
Mhm.
what is the you know the consequences behind
So
sex?
it involves yes. So the basis of sexual trauma is just unconsensual sex that is performed. So that's a violence, and that includes things like rape, incest, molestation, um, just any forms of unconsensual sex. And remember, when I say unconsensual sex, children cannot consent to sex. In older uh, adults to a certain degree can't consent to sex, meaning that they have to be cognitively aware of what is actually going on, right? And the other part to keep in mind is that that individuals with mental health disorders cannot give or legally cannot give consensual sex. Does that make sense? So someone who is, and it's not saying that every individual with mental wellness or mental health concerns can't have, but the sex has to be consensual. And that's the bottom line, the basis of it, the core of sexual trauma. And it can be with your intimate partner. It can be with your husband. It can be with your wife in some cases, because I want to make sure that we don't just highlight this is happening to women. I want you to also understand that this happens to men as well. People who are forced at gunpoint or knife point to have sex with someone or commit or perform a sexual act of any course without their consent is considered sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess my real question was what type of effect that it takes on that person, you know, in a
Okay.
long run, over lifetime, lifetime. What kind of lifetime effect does it have on the person?
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm plugging up. So some of the effects that you may see is of sexual trauma or sexual abuse is questioning identity is one of the things that may happen. Um, Not wanting to have sex or becoming very promiscuous could be the other thing. Constantly washing their bodies, not trusting, getting into having, and we talked about like the reciprocal or the ripple effect of things, how it affects, like let's say this happened in your teenage years, and then all of a sudden you become an adult and you get into a marriage. A lot of times, women may think that they have libido issues, or men may think they have libido issues, but it's actually sexual trauma. It's the ripple effect, kind of like like we were talking about the muscle memory. What happens in a car accident, the same thing is happening in your brain as you're wanting to connect to your spouse. So there may be like not able to have, if I may speak straight, because as adults, okay, you may have problems not having being able to climax, for example, because or have never climaxed because of the sexual trauma that has occurred, where you have not had appropriate treatment to be able to assist you. So these are some of the things that you would see, ripple effects or effects that will be ongoing. Um, and these some of these things occur too when it comes time to have children, things of that sort, things that come up like that may occur for the individual.
Wow, wow.
Hmm.
Let's kind of tap in a little bit on finances. Of course, we're talking about domestic violence and trauma.
Sure,
That's our topic.
sure.
Let's talk about finance trauma, because before I decided to do this, I had never thought about finances being a trauma.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes,
I never
yes.
thought. You know,
Hmm.
I'm
Yes.
understanding more and more doing this, being a part of the Unruffled Ladies and digging into different things about just life itself. I'm really understanding how the word of God say that people perish because of lack of knowledge.
Hmm.
And that is a true fact, because we don't have a lot of knowledge of different things. It causes us to get in a state of depression or get in a state of what. It's one thing in having a knowledge of something. It's another thing you having these feelings, but you don't know what.
Exactly.
Like I
And in
said,
a lot of,
never would I never would equate finances to be a trauma.
hmm,
So let's
yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So when you think about financial abuse, one of the things is happens very subtly. So it is, I'll give an example of someone working 80 hours, in 2 weeks and having their entire check. Um, Remember, the consent part is the part that makes it or somebody withholding that. So they work and they earn their income, and the entire check is taken. None of it is they're allowed to take care of their resources or primary things, but they're just working so that someone else can do it. Stealing from someone or defrauding them, is a form of domestic violence abuse. Remember, I gave you the definition of domestic violence versus other stuff. So someone that is defrauding their partner or stealing from their partner, or withholding funds from them, where they're not able to take care of their basic human needs, like water and things of that sort, or controlling those different things to be able to get other needs met, whether it's sexual or get them to do other different things for them, in the form of using money as a resource to be able to control.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
That makes me think about all the past generations, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, and how much of that was a conditional something that didn't make them view what was happening to them as abuse, especially when it comes to finances. How the man is the head of the household. He was the breadwinner, most of the time. And I'm thinking, traditional wise back in the day, and how much of that was really financial, trauma, not being able to be in control of the money, not being able to spend it freely, having to wait before you can get certain things that you want to have or buy, and somebody's giving you permission or not giving you permission to have it. So that makes me think how much of that was going on, back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. And we don't, again, therapy and how we're wrapping our minds around these concepts are very new. It's not that things haven't been happening; it just gave names to them. And so we didn't know that, for most men in the United States, the thought is, especially depending on the culture they grew up in, that providing was enough. That's all that I needed to do was provide, and if I provided, I'd love that was a means of showing that I love my family and I was taking care of them. But how it was received on the other end from my grandmothers and things of that sort, like you brought up, may have been a form of that. Not allowing her to go and get sanitary napkins or whatever the case may be with the income. We don't think about stuff like that, or providing for shoes, or like I said, basic needs, those kind of different things. Withholding, another thing I was going to say is bank accounts, right? So having bank accounts where or property and things all put into your spouse's name and nothing with your name on it. We don't think about stuff like that.
They're
We
running
just
up a
think
bill.
about, the hitting. I'm sorry?
Running up bills under your name. They're running up
Yes. Or getting
bills.
things in. Mm-hmm.
Getting
Mm-hmm.
things in your credit.
Yes. Very much so. That's a good one. Yes. That one happens a lot more often than not. Yes. Especially if you giving consent. So I want to make sure that we do that, because there are people who, you know what I mean, that's how their household is set up. I don't want to take away from what they've agreed upon, but what I'm saying, the whole thing is there has to be a sense of being able to have the cognition to be able to consent to these things.
So you consider that as being abuse, domestic, that's come under trauma, or that comes under
It's a form of financial abuse. Yeah,
abuse?
it's a form of financial abuse, of course. Yeah, because I'm abusing what you've given me, or I haven't, I'm taking from what you've given me, which is just you, and I'm taking it and I'm getting other stuff from it. So I'm gaining other things from it that may not be beneficial for you, but it's beneficial for the person that's actually committing the abuse.
So, Marcelina, has there actually been a time when you've counseled or been in therapy with someone and y'all were talking through these things, and it wasn't until that very moment that it was made aware to them that they were being abused?
Yes. I think for me as a therapist, these usually happen in individual therapy. I'll have individuals who may have been sexually abused or sexually assaulted. Typically, college students or individuals who've been through college and things of that sort. Not to say it happens on all campuses, but I've had many of my clients who have been talking to me about incident that happened, at a college campus with a close family friend that they thought was whatever. And as they were telling the story, waited as I do until they finished, and I started talking to them a little bit about what sexual assault looks like, and uh, having them, or they're telling me stories about their father coming in the room, or a family member, a close family member, coming in the room, and different things occurring, and they're not, and I'm making them aware that this is, incest. This is sexual trauma. This is sexual abuse. Like, you should not be having to go through this or have went through this. It out loud first time. As they're saying it out loud for the first time, they're able to kind of hone in on the fact that this has actually happened. This has happened to them, and this is why they're having problems. And
Wow.
She got cut off. We Until she comes back on, um, we do from Miss Linda Ferguson. She has a question. And I'm going to read it now. And then when Marcelina comes back on, we can have her address it, or if either one of us feel comfortable enough to do so. Most people don't talk about abuse.
Okay, it's back.
sorry about that, y'all.
I think you have I think your windows. Oh yeah, there you go. We can kind of see your face a little bit better. There you go.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Rosalind. All right.
Marcelina, one of our viewers have a question.
Okay.
And she responded, Miss Linda Ferguson Ribbit, she says, most people don't talk about abuse. If I suspect that someone is being abused, how do I safely bring it up or get them assistance?
Just know this: in the situation, or uh the situation with my friend that I'm telling you about, I'll give you this example, then I'll tell you other ways to be able to do it. I knew something was different with this person's character because they became more recluse. They became more hidden. They really did not give a lot of information about this particular person they were dating. When in past moments, that would be our joke as the three of us, myself and another coworker and friend. We would kind of joke because she was the youngest of the group, right? But she started becoming really quiet, and she would come to work. I remember one day coming to work, and her jaw was swollen, and she said it was something with the dentist. And now that I look back on it, I'm thinking to myself, he may have hit her, because I had never seen anybody's jaw bruised like that. Um, you know, but it was different things like that. So how do I bring that up to her, or bring it up to the individual? I think it depends on what is going on and who that person is to you. I think it's always important to let them know that you're there and that you care. Um, I think some of the questions you can ask is, do you feel safe? Asking someone just straight up, I'm wondering, or I'm seeing that there's some things that are going on with you. Do you feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, what can we do to help you feel safe? Because that's usually it. Sometimes they just want to be asked, but just be aware that they may not always be upfront about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The other one is, if they're constantly making excuses about their partner's behavior, begin to start questioning some of those different things with them. Is everything okay? Is there something that I need to know, about them? And that was one of the things that occurred with a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
And then I think, and also a good thing is because some people that's in that situation, they don't want you to kind of nag them. So I think
Mm-hmm.
let them know that I am aware that
Mm-hmm.
something is going on with you, and I just want you to know that I'm here. I am your friend. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is it anything that ask that question? Is it anything that I need to do as a friend? You know,
Yes.
being honest with that person. Hey, look, I am aware that something different is going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. So just ask them. Yes.
because sometimes people want to say, "Don't, I don't need you to get in my business,"
Mm-hmm.
and no, they are in major trouble. So
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to you have to be wise and use wisdom on
Mm-hmm.
some people. On some, it all depends on who that individual is. But I think it's letting them know I am aware that there's something different going on with you. I am
Yes.
I'm here. Is it any
Yes.
ask them a question? Is it anything that I can do to assist you?
Mhm.
And it may
Mm-hmm.
be weeks later, it may be a month later before they actually come back and say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is going on with me. Can you help me? They might not even tell you right then and there. You know,
Yes.
just
Mm-hmm.
show friendly and don't be overbearing. Now if it's in a real bad situation, then you might need to get some help.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so one of the things sometimes is they have to be able to trust you. Because remember, the attacker has, or the person who has committed the domestic violence is really worn away at their self esteem and their ability to seek help and find safety in help,
Yeah,
because the isolation kind of like the lioness do with gazelles, like get you apart and separated from your pack. Your safe space is one of the things that is important to keep in mind. But also when you're having these conversation, be aware of your surroundings, and also try to have this in a one-on-one or intimate space with just that person. If other people have are coming to you, then that's different. But if that person wants to be confronted, is basically what you're doing, is a healthy confrontation, is saying, hey, like, I'm noticing this is going on, I see that you may need some help. I just want to let you know that I'm a safe space, and when you're ready to talk about it or move on it, I'm here for you. But
yeah,
being able to say that one-on-one, as opposed to maybe you know um, in a space where there's a bunch of other people, which would make them less likely to come to you.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome, awesome. Do we have
Hmm.
a question?
She just said thank you. My
Okay.
question is, what resources are available that if a woman were to see this and maybe they don't feel comfortable coming directly to someone they know, but they just want to be able to reach out for any type of help or assistance.
I'm
Um,
so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. So, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is open 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. Again, that's a National Domestic Violence Hotline. If you type that into your computer, let me tell you what happens, because I played with it a little bit today. And what happens is, let's say that you're the person that's being abused. There is a little box that you can click. Like if your partner walks in, it'll switch the screen and it'll take everything and clear your stuff up. So it doesn't show that you're on a domestic violence line,
Wow.
right? It will do that. You just click one little button and it takes you. I was like, why am I over here? I was over here. Even if they back it, it won't go back to that information. Okay,
Wow.
so the National Domestic Violence Line can be a tool that's essential to help survivors of domestic violence. You are a survivor. Nobody deserves to be hurt. Nobody deserves to be abused. And when you call this hotline, you're going to have highly trained individuals who will advocate for free, and they will provide you with confidential and compassionate support. I want you to understand how compassionate these individuals are. One of my friends used to work as a crisis worker, social worker with Catholic Charities is an organization that's here in Houston that you can reach out to if you're someone that is experiencing domestic violence. They have crisis intervention, so they know how to be able to get you out of the home, move you around, move you to safe spaces and safe homes. I want you to know that they also provide you education and referral information in over 200 languages.
Wow.
So that's important. Their phone number, for those of you who may not have access to a computer, is 1-800 799 7233. Again, that number is 1-800 799 SAFE, SAFE, 7233.
Is that the
Marlena,
domestic hotline?
Yes, that's the national domestic hotline. And so I want to give that, and let me also give the text line as well, ladies, before we move on. I'm going to give you some more resources because I have quite a few, well, not quite a few, just a few, and I want to make sure I give the local ones because we are broadcasting from the Houston area, so I want to make sure that I give those as well.
Right.
So the text line, you text BEGIN, BEGIN, to 88788. And again, you text the word BEGIN to 88788. Now, I will tell you what was alarming to me was the amount of people who have called and text this line just last year was almost 1 million people. It was 928,892 individuals who placed calls to this line, text this line, reached out for chat to this line. So almost 1 million individuals just last year.
Wow. Was that here in Houston or that just kind of?
It's national, so it's throughout the nation, the
Wow.
United States. Yes.
Wow.
So keep in mind that we've had major stressors. Domestic violence numbers increase when there is strain or stressors. So things that are going on right now that we're not aware of is the political climax, right? There are things that are going on. So you have heated debates. You have things like sports. I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody's gambling, loses money, those kind of different things, or their team loses, or whatever the case may be. Anytime there's an incline in the amount of stress that is placed on a household, there's always going to be an increased chance of domestic violence.
Wow.
Okay. The other thing I wanted you to bring you guys to is some people may be saying to themselves, I may have been affected by this in the past. So how can I give and help out? So there's something that's called the Nation's Leaders of Grassroots Voices on Domestic Violence. And they offer a membership. So you'll be able to take classes and get some help and become facilitators if you decide that's what you want to do. They can help out with those different things, and you can give for the cause so that they can continue to pay and help out individuals on this national line. So they're all interconnected.
Okay, and so that is called the Nation what now?
The Nation's Leading Grassroots Voice
Okay.
on Domestic Violence. And it's just their website. If you just Google them and bring it up, it'll give you information on them. Okay. So I want to do, if you guys would allow me to, the two local ones that I know of that are near and dear to my heart. So the first one would be HAWK. It's the acronym HAWK, and it stands for Houston Area. If I'm going too fast, let me know.
Okay.
Houston Area Women's Center. And their phone numbers is 713 528 2121. Okay. Or the 800 number for them is 1-800 256 0551. And again, that's the Houston Area Women's Center.
Okay.
Okay. In the I've worked some of these organizations, work with them, working as someone that has worked dual diagnosis. So I work with both mental health and substance abuse. So I've worked with them to help women and families get into safety. Another one that is kind of in the East Harris County area is Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which is in Pasadena. I have personally volunteered there, just with my church and things of that sort. You have individuals who are there. They have apartments with housing for children, like on the property.
Wow, that's good.
And their phone number is 713
Mm-hmm.
473 2801. Again, the number for Bridge Over Troubled Waters is 713 473 2810.
So, Marcelina, if there's is a particular area that we haven't touched on, and
Okay.
it happens so often, you might even experienced it with yourself and your friend. But when people hear that someone is in an unhealthy, abusive relationship, their first question is, "Why don't you just leave? Why
Yes.
don't you just leave?" Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, um, what are some of the reasons? If you just want to touch on that a little bit, when I know it can be difficult. Leaving an
Mm-hmm.
abusive relationship is hard for many reasons. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the reasons that people stay in unhealthy, toxic or abusive
Okay.
relationships?
Sure. One of the reasons is feeling helpless and hopeless, right? I feel like this situation is not going to change. I don't want to be a burden on other people. This is all I got. Like, this is the only person I can turn to that is going to be there for me. He's going to change. He wasn't always this way, or she wasn't always this way. Constantly living in that space until instead of the person that understanding that they're both the same person and they're just evolving in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is a lack of safety. So this person has threatened their livelihood, their
Mm-hmm.
ability to be able to feel like they're going to function. Because how hard when you're thinking about someone that is in domestic violence situation. Let's say that this person leaves, where would they go? If the person is controlling their finances, how would they get there? Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to give them money to for Uber or how to be able to disappear and things of this sort? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would they go that this person would not know? Let's say that you've been in a relationship with someone for 15 years. They know every one of your, I mean, not even 15 years, 5 years. They know where everybody lives, how to be able to do that. And they're not afraid. Usually they're not afraid and they will do whatever they have to do to get you back into that space.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have some of those or some of the barriers that may happen. The children, when you have children in domestic violence, let's talk about that. A lot of people don't want to leave because they didn't grow up with their father or mother and they don't want to have the same thing happen to their child. So they stay in those situations, not understanding that the child is taking in all of this.
Yes.
So taking in all of this and it is not healthy for them because all children thrive in stability. And
Yeah.
when you have that kind of thing going on, where you have a child who is 4 years old holding their breath, listening for beer cans in the middle of the night, that's not a safe and healthy environment for them to be in.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So those are some of the reasons that individuals don't leave. Um, and just a fear of what people will think and say. And it may not sound like a lot to us or individuals, but it means a lot to them. They don't want to look as if they are being victimized. They also sometimes will not put the seriousness on the situation. They might not think it is as serious as you think it is. Oh, he only hit me once, and he was drunk then, or she
Yeah.
only steals my check once, those kind of different things. Hmm.
Exact. That was the next thing I was finna mention is how often have you noticed that society normalizes
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy behavior? They make
Mm-hmm.
it seem like it's normal. And the person that's being abused, they cannot identify that they are being abused because it's normalized. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked the question, has it ever been a time it's like, I didn't even see that as abuse? Like Lady Jim mentioned, I didn't even know that abuse could come in the form of finances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our
Mm-hmm.
time is up. This is so good and look like it passed by so fast. But our time
Wow.
up is 5 o'clock. I do want you to give out some information uh, uh, about what you do, how someone can get in touch with you if they need counseling or whatever. Yeah, just tell the audience how to get
Okay.
in touch. Yeah.
Okay. So, again, my name is Marcelina Washington. You can find me on Psychology Today is the best way to read information on me and just kind of discover who I am as a therapist. The name of my business is Living Stones Counseling Center. I'm in a private practice, so I take appointments. I do see individuals in person because I work with trauma and I physically work in trauma. I also see individuals virtually. So I can see you as long as you're in the state of Texas at this time, looking to branching out to Atlanta very soon or Georgia very soon and some other states. But right now in the state of Texas, I can see anyone, any place. And also my office number is 346 291 3515. Again, that number is 346
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so very much. As I said earlier, she is my counsel, and of course, she helped me bring out some things that has been buried for years and years. And so I highly recommend her if you have any kind of issue that you want to just talk about or whatever that might be. Make sure you get in touch with her. You have her phone number, so make sure you get in touch with her. Thanks again for being our guest today, and we have
Thank
to
you,
come
Pam.
talk about this again because there's so much more that we need to talk about.
Mhm.
So to my Facebook guests, we want to just thank you for being with us. I just want to encourage you. Come on, be unruffled. God love you, and so do we. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye
Miss
bye.
Marcelina.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.